Man, am I fucking just still tired. It's like 10 o'clock and I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'll get up and do something. I don't know if that's depression, but let's get really dig our dongs into this shit. I kind of just had those weird dreams, and those dreams kind of told me, why don't we pause the situation here? And we stopped at day 22. We subtracted from it the pages we don't want. And I just couldn't figure it out. I really couldn't figure it out. But here's what we did do though. Based on that dream that we had, based on, or was it even a dream? I don't know. Whatever that's called, like a little twilight state before you fall asleep. I ended up coming up with an entire story idea that I really dig here. So, as Eris made his way up the mountains, only then will he be confronted by his new vision, which has changed. This is the third time it's changed. And it spoke of a place. And this place, I don't really know how it happened. I think I just was like, well, in one of my old journals, I made mention of a floating city. I don't know what that means. And being now that I'm up in the mountains, I'm like, oh, maybe it's floating. It appears to flow because, you know, they're above the clouds. I don't fucking know. Or within the clouds or some shit. So it was one of those things, like, I don't know what that fucking means. But the more I started kind of doing the report, the more I started writing about it, the more I kind of realized that maybe this has a huge connection to what I'm considering the mind of God. And I found a very unique way of having a character find said mind of God through the consciousness of mankind. And this character happened to be from a place that existed in my ideas a long time ago with a group called The Sensitive. I never gave him a true name. I was like, we'll just call him The Sensitive right now. We'll give him a better name once we get down to it. And I took this group of sensitive, and essentially what they are is people that are hyper in tune with minds and processes of that kind of nature, and I modeled them after real life INFJs. INFJs are a fucking Briggs and Meyer, I think, classification of us, how certain people are, and I happen to be one of them. I happen to be one of the rarest ones too, which made me feel so special. And when I looked into it, it's just intuitive people, and people that are really in touch with emotions and stuff like that. And my cancer on top of that, right? So it's like double dose of, that's why you cry in public. But anyway, so I kind of was, I mirrored them. Just look into it, you know. I just kind of mirrored those people, and I said, like, what if there was a group of people that came from a place and I don't know where that is? Then bada boom bada bing, I found on this journal mention of an island. And on that island were groups of people that were being taken in slavery because it's the magical powers. Then bada boom bada bang, something that Kevin and I thought of a long time ago, and that was the slave trades that were going into Adrana. We didn't really like go into it. We're just like, wouldn't that be like something that they would do? Well, I happened to find the little island that I kind of keep in mind called I think it's Poyovian, and that's where they come from. And these people are used also by the monarchs because, as you know, the monarchs too, as they're being infiltrated by the Asuk, are needed to spot something in other realms. It's a whole fucking thing. Now, I'm kind of giving you the ghosty version of this because I don't really know what people know, because I don't know what I say on here. So let me give you the back lore, the working back lore. Idrana, that is the country that my people come from. If you want to think of it, think of a Greece. A very high society, functioning well. Now, there are a group of high mages that rule the land. And these high mages are called Aevans. So these Aevans work with their masters, called the Asuk Order. This is as of right now. I'm not gonna give you the Asuk are actually the Vampire, you know, like I'm not gonna like go into all that stuff, but this is just to give you a picture of it. Now, these Asuk train these Aevan. And one of the things they train them in, one of the things that they, like their end result that they want, is this sort of transcendence into another realm. And once in that other realm, do they search for something. Now the Aevans aren't exactly sure what they're doing. It feels to them more like a trial. Like, well, we're just being taught how to do this. This is just what we're doing, right? This will come in handy. Meanwhile, the carrot on the stick, essentially, is like, oh, we're doing this because we're trying to find a way into this other realm so we can save the king who's trapped there, our leader. He's trapped in that realm. That's kind of the carrot on the stick to these people. They don't know it's a lie, but whatever. Now, that's going on. And I said, well, sniffing out this other realm would be a quite difficult thing because it's wrapped inside of a mind, and inside of that mind, okay, how do I word this? When they go into this place, these Aevans, they're going into a husk of a mind. Outside of that mind is the other realm. They need to learn how to harness this thing so that then they know how to perceive this other place. The only way you can perceive what is after is through the mind of a being that can go there. Now, I know that sounds trippy. I think it sounds dope as fuck, and that's why we're doing it, but in a sense, what being knows the mind best than the sensitive? This is something discovered later, and that's the slave trades that will go over there. They would take these people, capture them, and use them kind of like guinea pigs in that realm. And there are a bunch of accounts, and I've wrote a bunch of different versions of like different times these people were used as like bloodhounds in a sense, to sniff out these other places, these other realms. Well, it just so happens that one of these guys was taken by the Serpentine Order far, far, far away. And those are the people that don't like mankind. Those are the people that are up in the mountains trying to figure out how to stop mankind. I've talked about that a bit. The Serpentine Order video. Check that video out so you can understand what's going on. But anyway, they're using him to unravel the secrets of the Keepers. Because, I mean, they're good at that sensitive shit, but they're good at that, like that mind consciousness shit, but they're also sometimes amongst them there are those that, like this guy that I'm about to talk about, who finds himself as a scholar of the Keeper Order. Now the Keeper Order are a group of let's call them priests, if you will, that are half-breeds between the Fae people, as we talked about in the one video, and mankind. And they're the intermediaries, and they are the ones that, like, the best way to think of it is they are the Jedi. This is what the Serpentine are after. But why, says the reader? Well, that's where I stop right now, because if I tell you, then what's the point of reading anything? So that's one major plot thing that I just kind of, it all clicked in the past like week. And so I wrote up what I could about it, and I kind of talked to myself through it, threw some quotes in there, felt out some characters in the sense of like through the quotes. I'll do that with reports. I'll answer and solve problems with dialogue to see that, oh, that's maybe how he talks, and this is maybe what they discuss. And in that, I just, dude, it gets very cerebral very quick. Now, book one, it didn't even have its full, like, how will I word this? Man, my template, I should say, is very much like Star Wars. book 1 didn't have a whole lot of talk about the Force. Do you know what I mean? Like a little bit, like tiny amount, but not much. My version of the Force. This book is diving into it, fucking Yoda and Luke on Dagobah stuff. Like that was my goal. Like this is when you really open up and you really start to describe the elements inside of this and how they work. It's not 100% easy, you know, and like I said, I have the bad guys that I have to sit and think like, okay, well, how does this new story thing affect them? And at any rate, whatever. This guy that's up in the Serpentine, that was a slave to the Serpentine, and then somehow Eris bumps into, well, he wants to go to this place as much as Eris does. Eris was told from a vision, and this guy is like, well, I've been studying this for years. I think we were meant to find each other, in a sense, kind of what he says. And together, they will search this out in search of the truth, in search of the Keepers and the Forgotten King, and possibly more elements to it. Well, as that's going on, simultaneously, I found a way to work in the Dark Nynaeren, one of them, and how she can be connected to certain characters. And it was so perfect, and then all of a sudden, like every group found their way in. Because I had Eris in book 1 always running away. Always chasing him was a few different groups. Well, as I was in book 2, it was hard for me, like, well, how do I get those other characters, the guys that were chasing him, into this book? And I found a way to do it perfectly because their motivations and their connections are, it's perfect. It's great. I'm really happy with that. And so that's kind of what we did the past, I think I started this like 3 days ago. It's about like 7 pages. The only one that I don't have, so I have Eris on here. I have some of the side characters on here of what's going on with them. And then we have not done Nakem. Now, Nakem's the one that's in the middle of the shit right now, and I'm just trying to figure out how to handle him and what to do, and that's the main thing. So it'd be Nakem's the main good guy, and then I gotta figure out what to do with like Cypherus and Quirtus and Shahir and the main bad guys that are over here as well. Once I figure all that out, we will be back on to the writing. And it just kind of, this is the only way I can think to do it, because I can't keep, like, I stream of consciousness my way into the situation, which is amazing, but now I'm paused and I need to do thinky stuff. You know what I mean? I've talked about this before. You can't always do some stream of consciousness work. You have to do thinky times. And that means probably not working on the typewriter for a little bit. That's more of working on the computer. But I'm very proud of how much I wrote in, oh God, 3 months I said it was. I'm pretty proud of how far we got, what we came up with, all very much on the seat of our pants. That's kind of cool to me. And it ended up being 150, what did I say, 53 pages or something. I cut out probably 50 of those pages. And what I ended up doing is I filed them away into my file cabinet. Who's this for? Who's this video for? We don't even know. I have every version of the Forgotten Book 1, from draft 1 all the way to draft 5, 6. This is the biggest one. I have 2 more I haven't printed out. I want them all printed out, and then I'll have them. Get out of here. Now, here's our first fuck up. We call this Book 2, Eris Rewrite, Discard. And so what I'm doing with that is I'm always going to keep it. So a certain scene, all the way till its ending point, I was like, take it out, and we discard it. But I will keep it, you know? How do I want to live life? Anyway, so yeah, we got that done. We got a lot of things we need to work on. How can I reward the folk that are still here now. Well, how can I reward you? I don't know. There's a thing called the roars of creation. And it says, the experience of the few in the outside realm is found down the paths of the cave. Not real, but where experience and memories go. So the lives of many are now but gone. The life experience goes into another realm. That is but one realm. The cave hall has many realms. Now, the mind of God is called the memory, or the experience. Each pathway is one single path of the brain. They did not know it was his mind. The path of the brain, and every moment is captured. Once passing through here, it can be a bit overwhelming for having someone else's entire being. It's hard for you to know your own. And there was a small story of these people entering in this place. It starts in the Blightlands, or the void, the beginning of this journey does. When the spores are knocked loose by any who travel through, they cause psychedelic or mind-altering experience. The land, once sacred, now destroyed, and seems to fall apart and blow away by touch because of these spores. Endless dead trees and ash-covered ground. Spores in the unknown have given rise. Creatures have taken up residence. Hiding, they wait for their prey. Once the land has lost its touch with Gaia, it became tainted, and those that were suppressed began to rise. There, the valley of seclusion, the long path surrounded by tall, looming mountains. The valley wrapped within the mountain and leads to Mount Sorrow, the tallest peak surrounded by the crowd of mountains. The cave, an entrance to the long winding stairs. So when you get to the mountains, you can find this cave. Blackest of black, catastrophic stairway. You are led by a thin, pale walker, and you are shown the dark thoughts. This is where you begin to see the fault in your own life. After a mile of walking the descending stairway, you come to a large area, black marble floor with unending ceiling. Still darkness, you come upon the pillars dividing separate paths. None know where they lead. These are the halls of the guardians. They were created long ago to guide the forgotten people, servants of the forgotten king, the original walker, now lost in the realms. When the halls were built, they unlocked the realms. First, it was the dream realm, the place of knowledge. Deep within the halls, something unlocked was found to allow the forgotten to, and I stopped writing. I'm saying probably enter and exit. This is allowing them to come into our world and leave our world. There was once light, though now extinguished. The halls of knowledge are not a place, but the mind. It is not sure if the mind of God or the creation itself. For when the hole was found in the cave, it was like finding the portal to creation and the Creator. And if they could see the face of God, they were in his very head. To an understanding higher than their own, he had not granted this knowledge to his people. This place Eris is meant to go is like the mind of God, this realm of creation. You go through this cave, you find this place, and it's insane. And I kind of updated a little bit too. Now there are many different ways to access the mind, and in many different areas there are many different trials. Keep in mind, the goal is to find the animus of God. One needs to find the door that allows entry into his very soul, mind, body, whatever you want to call it, so they can enter the next realm in safety of that place. It is like using that God as a protective shell, where you can have your own vision through his eyes. Now each entrance into the dark way is catered to the party that try and enter. Whatever they bring, they find. So is there greed or envy that plays itself among the group? Well, that is the trial that will be at hand. None know why the dark way is such a trial, but it seems to be connected to the ancient process Anaku speak of called the dark dream, where the ancient warriors must pass into the great beast, to be swallowed whole and come out the other end. Only then could he be strong enough to enter this other place. Now these places could very well be the portals that were used by the Dizorni, the Fae people, as well, though the proof of this is harder to come by. Though some say these long dark halls were indeed used by those Fae people when coming or going from the other realm. They have been called the Halls of the Guardians. You remember that? Now, it is within these halls that hold many countless doors. Each door held its own destination, a realm, so to speak, and they would be guarded by some sort of mental barrier. It was said these long halls once were lit and illuminated, but have quickly fallen to disrepair or neglect. It is within this place one is said to have traversed past a place, and into the mind itself. Whether that is indeed the mind of God or not, none can say. It's beyond being in a place, is what I was trying to say. It's like, you go in this area, and it's like, I'm not in a fucking place. It's something greater than that. Here's a quote. When the halls were built, they seemed to unlock the realm beyond ours. First was the dream realm, the place of knowledge. But beyond that, none could say. It appears the ancient forgotten people used such a place to go to and from their original home in that other place. Another quote. We are not sure if it is the mind of Oapake or the creator himself within that place. For when the hole was found in the deep dark cave, it was like finding the very portal to creation and the creator himself, as if we could see the face of God or dance within his mind. Here's another quote about how it works, and we're going to get to this part and where I'm going to leave it to you. This place was a most holy sight indeed. Monuments and temples were erected in the deep darkness, and all throughout the halls and the rows upon rows of candlelights flickering in the strange blowing breeze. This place in and of itself became a holy place. This area, I should say. The sacred grounds were only the few chosen could roam. Not since the roaming of the ancient Fae people long ago have they been inhabited. And among those who protected those halls were the keepers. Those Arya were tasked with being the saviors of man and holy ones to their Fae relatives. This was the most holy time, until the darkness came. When the burning of the wood happened, well, that was not all Tanias and his warriors destroyed. For they marched to these very heights to destroy all worship of Oapake, though I am sure they themselves were fooled by Theis and his minions. Surely they must have been, for why would man destroy his own creator? At any rate, their evil corrupted the ancient place, and soon from the deep darkness wicked beings fled from the halls. They ravaged, and soon all priests and keepers fled from terror. Another quote. Though it was Odysseus who came to these heights, and it was said to enter such a place, enter and stop that wickedness that began to flow from the other realms. He stopped the evil of the Titans from raining down on people. He freed these people before he left down the mountains, never to be seen again. And he hid it behind a great ward. Then stories grew of one that would come and unravel the mystery he left behind to finish his work. Though there are none know what that would mean. This is this place I'm really working on right now. It's like I'm trying to hone in on like what exactly is it? Each area in our world has a doorway that allows us into this area. It's kind of like a big crossroads, right? I think it's kind of like in Dragon Age when they have the mirrors. And if you have one of the mirrors, you enter in and you could see all the other mirrors, and it's kind of like a highway system. Well, this is less of a highway system and more of a, well, all roads lead to God in a sense. So if every portal has its way into this, I have to figure out, is this dark cavern with all these doors, is that the one place that we all meet up? If I walk into my portal here in Michigan and you walk into your portal wherever the hell you live at, Are we just gonna peer into this giant fucking room with all these doors and these massive pillars and these halls that lead off to different thought experiments and shit? I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know if that's select to its own area, you know, like, or if it's shared, you know. That's the biggest thing I gotta work on real quick and kind of discern what the truth is behind that. And also, mainly, how exactly does it work? What are the realms in which we speak of? And really diving into the idea of what it is to go into the other realm through your own God's thoughts. That, to me, is once I unravel that part, I think we'll have our fucking, I don't know how to word that. We'll just have the way to do this. Because it's the more I'm working on this, the more I'm realizing that I have to talk about using your own creator. You know, we've mentioned this in the past of certain videos of like our worship keeps the God alive, whatever God we're worshiping. Right? And I use that, I just kind of kept that in over here. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting, I'll keep it over here. And I just kept thinking, well, if you fucking do that, then you must be able to affect him. And if you're smart enough, and if you're keen enough spiritually, you might be able to use that to access him. And that's kind of what I'm imagining maybe a prophet is in a sense, in our modern understanding of a prophet. Through that, how can we access our own God? And then once doing that, we can go into where he is, and he can be the visual point of which we are. Now, it just so happens the God of mankind is trapped in some dimension inside of all that fucked up shit. Like, you go through one of those realms, he's in somewhere. It's crazy. Like, he's in a place that's driving him mad. And it's like, Aevans, as I said before, they want to rescue him. They want to free his ass. But they don't really know the truth behind everything. But that's their ambition. Like, if we can pull him from that room, then he won't be getting driven mad anymore. And he can finally stop the bad guys, because he can go find them and shit. It's a way more complex than that. But that's kind of the mindset of mankind, at least in the Edenian society. Don't even get me started on what the fuckers think out in the South. Now, there's a whole aspect to all this shit, and what it's been is a long journey for me trying to just unravel how the fuck am I going to make all this happen. You know what I mean? How the hell is this all going to work? Because it's very ambitious, it's very good, and like I said, what I have to do, if I even get to it today, because of my fucking depression, if I can fucking go into the bad guys and say like, okay, this exists, what about them? How does this affect their shit? You know, I have to, once I figure that out and it feels sufficient enough, we can begin the journey of writing again. We can go right back to it and say, all right, here we go, let's stream of consciousness now, let's get the fuck in here and figure this out. It's just crazy, man. I'm really proud of all this. This is very interesting, and man, I can't wait to see where it goes from this point into like fucking book 3, when it gets even fucking crazier. And I don't even know what happens after book 3. You know, that's the point at which I don't have anything. I'm like, I don't know. I generally know how to get into book 3, but I don't know after that what happens. That's blank as a fucking... So that's why I want to publish the first 3 so I can work on it. So we have ourselves our story, we have our ambition, we know what we're doing. All we have to do is the easy task of figuring out how do you access your own God's mind, and after that, what happens when you're in there and you want to explore another realm? Not that big of a fucking problem, right? You know? It's interesting, man. But we'll get it. We'll figure it out. And on to the next one.